So our next problem is number 25, and it is also on page 589, and it reads, which of the following is a graph of the line, let's read that again. Which of the following is a graph of the inequality -2 less than equal to x less than 4? -2 is less than or equal to x less than 4. Okay, so let's write. You have your book, but I'll write it on the screen, and then there's some things that we need to discuss so you'll understand how to calculate this type of problem or how to solve it. So let's get a white screen, and they want to know, let's see. This is number 25. Oh, -2 is less than or equal to x less than 4. And you see in your book it wants to know which of the following is a graph of this particular inequality. And you have the choices in your book, A, B, C, or D. That's why I said you need the book so you're able to follow along. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. First, what is an inequality? And you can look in your book on page 354. You give a good explanation there. An inequality is a mathematical statement that connects two unequal expressions. The inequality symbols and their meanings are as follows. And so you need to understand the meanings of less than, greater than. So this is what I always do to remember this, but I'll illustrate what's in the book and you'll see it. I always remember one of these, and that is the one that points to the right is equal to what? Greater than. So that symbol means greater than. Whatever works for you, that's how I remember it. Because I know the one to the left is the opposite of greater than, which is less than. But they do illustrate this in your book. So let's, right, so they have that, they have the greater than, then they have this one. Greater than or equal to. Greater than. Let's try to just do it quickly. If you can do anything quickly with this thing. Or equal to, right? And then they have less than. Man, trying to write with a mouse. Less than. Again, it's okay. At least I can illustrate for you how to do these problems. So we have less than, and then of course the last symbol, just for time's sake, we'll save time. So less than, that symbol means less than or what? Or equal to. And you can see this in your book. Okay, so we understand that. So the next thing is this. Let's do a sample problem that they have in your book. Example 1. Solve for x in the inequality 3x plus 2 is less than 8. Okay? So you have to know how to read these. Greater than, this one here is greater than. Let me get my red so you can see what I'm illustrating. Alright, so greater than, obviously. Greater than or equal to. Less than or equal to. Alright? Okay, let's erase that and then let's see if we can do one of the problems. They're the samples they have. And I know you have it in your book, you can see it, but I want to illustrate it so you can understand it. I'll do the problem, then you can see exactly how they did it. Alright? Because they do it in the book, but sometimes they don't just explain it, they just show you the problem. Okay, so my blue, and I'll get my. Alright, so we understand the direction. What's less than, greater than, equal to, or less than, equal to. Now, they gave you a sample problem. So how did they get x is less than 2? Well, the sample problem they gave you was this, 3. Now, keep in mind, I'm just illustrating this and explaining things so you'll understand question number 25, and then you can go and graph that equation on the line. But let's understand a few things first. So 3x, let's see if we can get this sample problem, understand how they did this sample problem. 3x plus 2, and this is coming right out of your book on page 364, is example number 1. Less than 8. Okay, so the first thing they want you to do here, solve for x in this inequality. So when we say solve for x, we see x is over to the left side of the plus sign. And there's a 3x. So we got to solve for that. And the way we solve for that is the next step. Subtract, in your book it says number 1, step 1. Subtract 2 from both sides. So since the coefficient 3x and x, the variable, is with the 3, then we want to solve for x by trying to get x isolated to one side of the equation. So subtract 2 from both sides. We'll get rid of the 2 that's on the same side as the 3x. But remember, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side, right? Okay, so when we subtract it over here, oh, get red. Then this is gone, and this is gone, and it leaves what? 3x. This is how they got this in the book. 3x over here. And of course, 8 negative 2 will leave a positive 6, right? Bring this down, bring the less than symbol down. And of course, 8, a negative 2, leaves 3x is less than 6. So what's the next step they give in your book? Divide both sides by 3. So divide both sides by 3. What you do on the left, you have to do on the opposite side. So we're going to divide that by 3. And of course, divide this by 3. Which means the 3 is going to cancel out, right? Remember, we're trying to get x off to itself. So that cancels, that's out. Yeah, let's get blue again. And that leaves x. This is how they got the answer in your book as you're looking at the example. Bring down the less than sign. And we know 6 divided by 3 gives us 2. 6 divided by 3. 2. That's how they got the answer in your book. Okay. Now, I want you to look at the bottom of page 354. Examples. X less than 2. X greater than negative 3. X less than equal to 1. X greater than equal to negative 2. So we can understand how they are plotting these lines. Well, when we look at the bottom, we have to read the explanation. It says, when an inequality contains a variable, there are usually several numbers that make the inequality true. For that reason, we often graph the solution. In the examples below, this is important. A closed dot means that the number is included in the solution set. An open dot means the number is not included. So what do they mean? What are they saying? Okay, here's what they're saying. If you look at those line graphs below, let's erase this for a minute, and then we can so you can understand how to calculate this. What they're asking you to do on question number 5. Plot that equation. So an open dot, when you see that on that line graph, an open dot what does it mean? Well, the open dot means the number is not included. Okay, so when you see that on the line graph, is not included. Okay, so now the closed dot. When you see this on the number line, let's close it in. See? The closed dot means what? That the number is included. And we're going to show you that from your book. The closed dot means number on that line, on that graph line that we're going to be graphing in a minute shortly. At the bottom page 354, number is included. Okay, so now, if you look at the bottom of the page 354, it gives you 4 examples of plotting the numbers on the graph line, right? Let's erase this, and then let's do those samples, and you see if we can help you understand it. Okay. All right. So we know open mean the numbers not included, and close mean the numbers included. So that's important. You need to understand that so you can see how this graph line works out. So open, not included, close mean is included. Look at the bottom of page 354, and you see x, and skip my pen, x less than 2. But now on the number line, what you see is this. Remember, you see an open dot, and then you see a black line arrow going to the left, the dark black line, right? Well, what does the equation says? It says x is less than 2. So that's why you see the open dot, because the number 2 is not included. So what's less than 2? 1 is less than 2. 0 is less than 2. You see? -1 is less than 2. Now, if it would have said x is less than and equal to 2, then this line would have been closed, you see? It would have been closed. But it didn't say that. It says x is less than 2. So that means the 2 is not included. Let me see if I get that. Yeah, get my erase. Okay, 2 is not included. So that's why you see what? Open dot. I'm trying to illustrate this for you the best I can. Okay, now let's look at the next one. X is greater than what? A -3. Whatever x is represented is greater than a -3. Well, let's look at the line graph. We see, and notice now that the negative, notice that the greater than symbol, even on the line graph, the dark line for greater than, like it should, points to the right. Whereas up here, the less than symbol, dark line, goes to the left. You see? You see that line right here? It's going to the left because it's less than. But the greater than right here is pointing to the right. That's something as you can see and notice. But they say x greater than, remember I told you greater than points to the right. X greater than -3, greater than -3. So -3 is not included. So here you see an open dot, -3. If it would have said x is greater than or equal to -3, what would we have? A closed dot. But it didn't say it says x is greater than. Therefore, eraser, we have a open dot because -3 is not included. Okay? X is greater than a -3. So what's greater than a -3? Well, let me get my eraser. A -2 is greater than a -3. A -1. See, we're going up the scale. Going up the positive scale, right? 0 is greater than -2. And a +1, you see? A +2 is greater than a -3. So any one of those numbers. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is how to plot on this graph line. Open dot, the number is not included, as I'm illustrating it. Closed dot, If it was a closed dot, then you would have had greater than 3 or equal to 3. Or greater than -3 or equal to. It didn't say or equal to -3, so we have a closed dot. Okay, let's look at the next one. X is what? Less than or what? Equal to 1. Now question, which way you think the arrow is pointing? Is it going to point that dark arrow to the left or to the right? It's going to point towards the left because less than is to the left, right? See? Less than. But notice what it's asking. X, or what it's stating, X is less than or equal to 1. Or equal to 1. So that means you're going to have a closed dot. So 1 is included. See? We had a closed dot because the 1 is included. So 1 right there. But what do we want to know? X, whatever X is less than or equal to 1. So what's equal to 1? 1. There we go. Or what? Less than, which would be 0 is less than 1. -1 is less than 1. And so on and so on and so on, right? -2 is less than 1. -3 is less than 1. That's what it says. That whatever X is, it's less than or equal to 1. And that's why you see a closed dot. Okay, let's look at the next one. X is what? Greater than or equal to -2. X is greater than, whatever X is, the unknown, the variable X, whatever that number is, X is represented by a number that is greater than or equal to a -2. So since it's greater than or equal to, which way is the dark arrow going to point? It's going to point in the same direction as the greater than symbol, to the right. And we know because it's saying greater than or equal to, then -2 is going to be included in the graph set, right? And you can see there, -2 is included. Therefore, you will have a closed dot. So, what's equal to -2? -2. What's greater than -2? -1. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All these numbers are greater than -2. But it says X is a number, an unknown number, X. Some number is greater than or equal to -2. Okay, and you can see we just illustrated that. Okay, so now let's erase this. You understand how the inequality graph line works. So let's erase this and let's do the question on page 589. Didn't mean to take as much time, but I want to explain this so you can see it, because that's what we said. We'll do it step by step. And of course, if you understand it, just fast forward. Okay, so let's look in the book on page 590. I'm sorry, I was going to say 589. No. Question 25 on page 590. Okay, now let's start by saying -2 less than or equal to X. Well, if you look on A, B, C, or D, let's find less than or equal to illustrated on the graph. And the only two that illustrates a -2 less than or equal to, which means, you see where it shows here, let me give a red, or equal to, right? -2 is greater, -2 is less than or equal to. That means the -2 is going to be included, which means you're going to have a closed dot. So let's find a closed dot in the solution set where it shows a -2. And the only two that shows a -2 with a closed dot is, well, no. If you look at B, we can eliminate B because B does not have a -2 with a closed dot. And we know -2 is included because it says less than or what? Equal to. So -2 is equal to -2. So you have to have a closed dot. Okay, so let's eliminate B. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at, the next thing is, let's find the, because we're saying -2 less than or equal to X, some unknown number, whatever X is also less than what? 4. So let's find less than 4. Now, what we're looking for is a less than 4 on what? The thick line. See? You have to be that thick, not that thin line, because you see part of that graph, you'll see a thin line. Let's see if I can get one. See? We're not looking for that. We're looking for the solution set on the thick line here. Okay? That line. Okay, so let's go and look for less than 4 on the thick line. Let's see which one shows us that. Okay, when I look at B, it doesn't show less than 4 because the 4 is a closed dot. The 4 is included. So again, we can eliminate B. Let's look at A. A shows an open dot for 4. However, notice that the line doesn't go all the way across to -2 and all the way across to less than 4. So that's out. Okay, let's look at C. C does show a 4 with a closed dot, and the problem shows less than 4. So 4 should not be a closed dot because 4 should not be included. It says less than 4. So C is out. So the only possible choice with that thick line that shows a -2, which the -2 is included because it says -2 less than or equal to. So the only one is D, because you see it has the -2 with a closed dot, and then look at less than 4. It has a open dot for the 4, which tells us less than 4 because 4 is what? Not included. So what's less than 4? 3, 2, 1, 0. You see? So your answer choice is D. Your answer choice is D. I hope we were able to explain that where you understood it, and that's why we took our time to try to illustrate it. Answer choice is what? D.